Hello and welcome to this first video of Module 4. And what we're going to dive into during this video is what I call the Powerful Purchase Plan. The Powerful Purchase Plan. This is where people tend to like to get started with their property investing. Out of my 10 areas that I think you need to master to be successful through property, in fact I know you need to master to be successful through property, this is the 7th on the journey. But it's key. It's obviously key because we're talking about purchasing the houses that are going to make us wealthy over time. And whatever your strategy, whichever strategy you're involved in, then the Powerful Purchase Plan will help you to be really, really clear on the things that you need to master to be successful. Okay. So what we're going to do is dive in and look at what I call the 7 S's. The 7 S's of the Powerful Purchase Plan. And this is an introductory video to the Powerful Purchase Plan, so you know that when I teach it, it takes 2 days to teach it fully. But let's just get a feel of what are the 7 S's, the things that we need to master to buy property successfully every single time. So what's the first S? Well, the first S is source. We need to know how to source the right properties for our particular strategy, and we need to know exactly where we're going to find those particular properties. We need to know what the rules are to source those specific properties. Now, in one of the other modules, we've already covered the key rules for investing in family-let property, and we'll go on to cover the key rules for each of the other main strategies: serviced accommodation and holiday let, rent-to-rent, options, and HMOs. And then we'll go on to also talk about key rules of getting the right joint venture partners. But let's concentrate on source. So within sourcing, there are a whole load of ways that you can go out and source properties. You can either choose to do it yourself and really, really focus on being an advertiser and a marketer yourself. Now, some of you will be listening and think that's the last thing I want to do. I have no skill in it. It's not where I want to be. Now, because you've got no skill in it, that's not a reason to do it. But it may be not where you want to be. Personally, I did it myself at the beginning, and I did the hard yards, and I did the work to create the interest, the people willing to sell to me. And then as I got more and more successful, I realized, you know what, I want to outsource this. I'd rather somebody else did this for me because A, they've got more experience and skill, B, they've got more time and energy put into it, and C, I can then sift through. If I get loads of these people doing it for me, sending me their deals, I can sift through those deals and really cherry pick the right one instead of only buying the best one that I can find. Now, the second video in this module will talk you through this particular sourcing step in detail. So I'm not going to do it here, but if you want that in detail, watch the second video in module 4. Just on the screen here, I've just listed some of the ways that you can do this yourself, and again the second video will do this in a lot more detail, and some of the ways that you can do this with mastery. You can outsource. These are the people that can help you really speed up your journey of sourcing these properties. So what's the second S beyond sourcing? And remember, if you're buying family-let properties, I tell you, you must source with a minimum of 15% discount. Is that the same with holiday lets and serviced accommodation? Not necessarily, but you want to negotiate really, really well, and you want to source outstanding properties. The rules are the key. So the second S is to sell. Now, this isn't to sell the property. You need to source great properties, but once you've sourced a great property, it's all about how you sell yourself, how you negotiate that particular deal. How do you position yourself so that the person selling the property wants to deal with you? How do you position yourself if you're dealing with sources and people that find these properties for you so that they want to deal with you rather than another investor? And it's all about learning to communicate really well and learning to negotiate really well. Now, I'll give you an example when you're negotiating to buy a property. And I'll give you 2 very similar examples. Let's imagine that the property's worth 100,000 and you want to buy it for 80. So you open up with an offer of 70, they say 90. You say 75, they say 85. You say 77.5, they say 82.5. You say 80, and they agree. Okay, so you said 80, they agreed. Imagine the exact same situation, but it finishes just slightly differently. 70, they say 90, 75, they say 85, you say 77.5, they say 82.5, you say 79, they say 80, and you agree. So in both examples you met at 80, but in the second example they said 80 and you agreed with them. In the first you said 80 and they agreed with you. What would you think if I told you when you're buying with a 20% discount that if they said 80 first and you agreed with them, it's 50% more likely to go through? 50%. So that means for every 2 that go through where you said 80, 3 will go through and complete where they said 80. That's a phenomenal difference. And that difference takes place because if they've said 80 and you've agreed, even though that price is well below what they know the property is worth, in their heads it's done. They were the people that suggested that final price. You agreed to it. It's done. So when someone in the pub says, oh, you're crazy selling it for 80, I'll buy it off from you for 85. They say, no, it's done. It's sorted. Whereas psychologically, if they've agreed to your 80, you said 80 and they agreed, then actually it's not done at all. They've still got a problem with that. And when someone in the pub then says, oh, you're crazy selling for 80, I'll offer you 85, they say, oh, well, let's explore that. What do you mean? Okay. 50% more likely to go through. So you need to learn to negotiate, and part of negotiating is making sure that the vendor gives the final price. I'll be happy if it's £1,000 more than I wanted to spend, but the vendor's given me their final price. I know it's locked in. I know it's definitely happening. So you need to leave the seller happy. You need to communicate with them in an outstanding way. So don't leave it to the estate agents. Make sure you've got their name and number and keep them updated every step of the way. I'm delighted we've agreed. I'll give you another update in 2 or 3 days time. I'm going to get the finance moving. I'll be in touch again 2 or 3 days time. I'm delighted that everything's going ahead. Just to let you know, I'm doing everything I said, and I'll update you again in 2 or 3 days time. You know, you've done the hard work to find this deal, this particular deal, whether it's rent to rent, whether it's options. You've done the hard work. So many people lose that hard work by just not communicating well at the end. Okay. Make sure you confirm to them that they've made a great decision. You know, it was a great decision to choose to sell to me. I know you've taken a discount off what the property is worth, but I will get this done in 4 weeks as I have promised you. And that's a real great decision you've made. And then text them the next day. That was a great decision you made to sell the house. I'm really looking forward to getting it purchased from you, just to let you know everything's on the move. You know, people get buyer's remorse. People get seller's remorse. We all know that. If you think about when you've gone and bought something expensive or when you've sold something you really love, you get buyer's or seller's remorse. So what's really important is you reaffirm their decision. You reaffirm and make them feel comfortable and secure in the decision you've made. You know, if you're doing rent-to-rent strategy and another landlord is renting their property to you for you to then rent out on a multi-room basis, make sure you keep well communicated with them. Make sure you reaffirm it's a great decision. Make sure you keep in contact with them throughout that process until everything's signed up. Leave no space for negative thinking. It's really, really important. Now here's the third S. We're sourcing at discount. We're negotiating really well. Now we need to survey this property, because it's all well and good you thinking a house is worth 100,000 and you're buying it for 85,000. But what if it's not worth 100,000? What if it's actually 95 or 90 and you've made a mistake? And now you're not going to be able to buy at the level of discount you thought and leverage back out of it. You've got to double check that thinking, and it's worth spending some money to do that. We generally pay anywhere between 150 to 180 plus VAT for an independent survey. That's a RICS surveyor that you should be looking for, okay? Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. It's an independent survey, and you're going to them independently and saying, look, I'd like you to go and value this property. Now, what do they always say to you? They always say, well, what is the property worth, do you think? And what are you buying it for? And you give them those two numbers and they value it at one of those two numbers. So we always ask for what we call a blank valuation. So even with that price that I mentioned, we want a blank valuation. We want them to go, we're going to say to them, look, I don't want to tell you what I think it's worth or what I'm paying for it. I want you to go independently and just give me a valuation on this property. So please don't ask the vendor either. Just go and value this property. And what I'd like from you is a detailed report. In that report, I want what you think it's worth today, what works you think need doing to refurbish it to get it ready to let, what you think it will be worth if those works are done. I'd like lots of pictures, so at least 10 pictures, front, back, every room, the street, etc. I would like within the report at least 3 comparables that back up the price today, and at least 3 comparables that back up the price if I refurbish it. And please, can I have all of that? Can you get in there and get the property valued in the next 24 to 48 hours? And can I have the report within 24 hours of that, please? If not, then it's not a problem, but I'll use a different surveyor because I need to move quickly on this particular purchase. Now, what you're actually doing is, A, you're getting a second opinion. You're getting somebody else to go and confirm that the property is really coming with a genuine discount. And if that second opinion, by the way, if they only value it at 95 or 90, you need to walk away or renegotiate so you've got the discount off their price. Don't get that second opinion and go, oh, well, I'm going to ignore that anyway because I'm in love with this house. Okay, that's emotion before business. You're getting the second opinion and you will respect it. And you need to be getting the right level of discount from their valuation or your valuation, whichever is the lower. Okay, so it's really important to do that. Secondly, when you get this valuation, once you've bought the property at discount, after 6 to 12 months, you can go back to the bank and say, do you know what, I'd like to refinance it. It's worth more than I bought it for. I've also done a bit of work to it. Please, can we get it revalued? And can I get a further advance? Or can I refinance to somebody else? And the bank will send out a new surveyor. And when you go and meet that surveyor within your strategy, part of the strategy is to show them the original survey. So to say, you know, I did get to buy it for just $85,000 6 months ago, as you can see on net house prices. Everyone can see that. But here's the evidence that it was worth 100 before I bought it. Here's all the receipts for the refurbishment work I did. Can I give you a copy of those to take away? I know you'll make your own choice, but I just wanted to show you that I believe I bought it at a discount and it is actually worth 105,000 now, or whatever the number may be. Now, that's your independent RICS survey. Separately to that, the bank will also want to send a surveyor out when you get mortgage finance anyway. So if you're buying with mortgage finance, the bank will want to send out their surveyor to survey the property, but they're not surveying it for you, they're surveying it for them, to give them peace of mind that this property is worth what you're paying. If they have to repossess it, they'd be able to sell it for that amount. So the likelihood is, if you're in this same example buying the property for 85,000, they're going to value it at 85,000. They're not going to value it higher. If you think of it from the valuer's point of view, he's gone on behalf of the Halifax Bank and you're buying it for 85. If he values it at 85, everybody's happy. If he thinks it's worth 95 and he puts it at 95, and then the property gets repossessed in 6 months' time because you don't pay the mortgage, and then the bank can't sell it for 95, they can go back and sue that valuer for getting the numbers wrong. So he or she is going to be cautious and likely to value it at 85,000 if that's what you're buying it for. So don't let that make you panic about the discount. Do let it make you panic if they value it even less than 85, but of course they won't, because you've had an independent surveyor already value it at 100 and you've been out and you believe it's worth 100. Okay. When you use the banks to do a valuation, they'll offer you 3 types of valuation. You can get the basic valuation, you can get a home buyer's survey, or you can get a full survey. Now, a full survey is where the surveyor's there most of the day and you get a 40-50 page report on the property. If you're buying a 200-year-old property, or you're spending £500,000 plus on a property, you need a full survey. You want to protect your investment and get it right. A home buyer survey is one up from a basic valuation, so they'll do a little bit more checking in terms of damp. They'll spend maybe, instead of spending 15 minutes of the property, they'll spend 45 or 50 minutes there. I tend to find personally that if you've got an independent surveyor gone round and you've gone round and the bank surveyor's gone round, between the 3 of you, all at basic valuations, you will have got enough information to spot the main problems: building issues, woodworm, damp, and other similar issues. So personally, I wouldn't recommend going for a home buyer's or a full survey on an investment property unless it's up at that £500,000 plus mark. Okay. The 4th S. We've sourced at discount. We've negotiated on the property. We've had it surveyed. We now want to know that we can scale our investment. We want to be able to scale up. And you only do that by getting the right mortgage finance in place. Now, I'm going to talk about it lots during this module, but the Expert Team Creator, which is the third video of this module, teaches you exactly how to find the right people to work with on your investment journey. It teaches you how to ensure that you get outstanding people around you. And you want an outstanding mortgage broker to ensure this is successful for you. So scale is all about being able to leverage your money. If you've got a certain amount of money to invest, you want to get the biggest possible return you can for it. So you need the right mortgage brokers in place. Those mortgage brokers should be experts at your strategy. If you're doing family let, you want a mortgage broker who's got their own family lets that meets the 9 key questions that we ask in the Expert Team Creator, which you'll see later in this module. The right mortgage broker will be doing at least 10 mortgages a month of that type, of that very type. So it's really important to get this right, really crucial. I've known so many people have bought a house at discount and ended up locked into the deal for 2 years or 3 years because they got the wrong mortgage, and then they can't release the money to go on and buy another property. And that's where your real results come in property, as the property prices grow, but also as you release the money that you bought with a discount. So scale is critical. What's the 5th S? Well, the 5th S is solicitor. You need to be working with the right solicitor. You need to be tying up these deals in an incredibly timely manner. If you're buying at discount, then one of the key drivers of the vendor is normally timeliness. You may have promised to complete things in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. Whatever you promise, you need to deliver on and to know you can deliver on. And you don't know that just by using the same solicitor you used to buy your residential property 3, 4, 5 years ago. Okay? So there are some key things about the solicitor you choose to work with. The main things that you need to understand is solicitors are trained, quite rightly, are trained to find problems. So your solicitor is acting for you as you're buying a property. Their training teaches them to try and find a problem with that property, with its deeds, with the details around it. It comes up with 5 problems, he or she. They then throw those problems back to the buyer solicitor and say, we've got these 5 problems, sort them out. The vendor solicitor catches those problems and goes, you know what, here's the answer to 1 or 2 of them. These couple I've asked my vendor about, and this one, tough luck. And they chuck it back to you. And solicitors can spend weeks throwing these problems backwards and forwards. Okay, you must have a solicitor who is a problem solver as well as a problem finder. So my solicitors need to come to me and say, do you know what, we found these 3 problems, but here's 3 ways, 3 solutions, and then I go speak to the vendor directly. We should cut out the solicitor's loop. I say, here's 3 problems, here's 3 solutions, I'll do this, you do that. Are you okay with that? Yes, I'm okay with that. Great. You go tell your solicitor, I'll tell my solicitor, we're on the same page, done. You cut out those weeks of issues because A, you go direct to vendor with the problems and work on solutions with them, and B, your solicitor to start with was a problem solver. Yes, they still identify the problems, but they come up with solutions. If your solicitor isn't a solution finder, don't work with them. Okay, there's no such thing as a lack of resource, there's a lack of resourcefulness. I've lost count of the number of awesome deals I have been able to buy from vendors who have tried to sell their house before and it kept falling over with the solicitors. There was a problem with the house of some description, and I've just come in and solved the problem and we've got the deal done. Okay. The other thing that's crucial is your solicitor will work with the speed that you need. Speed of communication. They'll answer emails within 4 hours. They'll take phone calls and return them within 4 hours, etc. And their clarity of communication. You don't want a solicitor talking legal spiel to you. You want them translating it into plain English, layperson's terms, so you can then decide what you need to do. Okay. So that solicitor must have 3 things. They must be a problem solver. They must move quickly and be very happy to have you chase them each day or every other day. And they must be happy that they can communicate clearly. If they don't meet all of those 3 individual goals, then they're not the right solicitor for you to work with. Okay, and you can get more on that in the Expert Team Creator. So we've got our 5 S's now. What's our 6th S in our powerful purchase plan? Our 6th S is how we set up our investment, how we set up the property that we've just bought or taken control of. So what do I mean by set up? Well, you know, if you buy a property in the City of London for a banker to live in who's earning £200,000 a year, they need a different refurbishment than somebody living in an ex-council house in Sheffield, a 3-bedroom ex-council house in Sheffield. They need a different refurbishment, again, from a holiday let in Scarborough. So what's really important is that you set up the property correctly. Now, there are 3 key parts to this. Okay. There's your foundational stuff. Any property needs refurbishing to the right standard so that it rents well. So your foundational stuff is about making sure that it's clean, that it's tidy, that we've got a great kitchen, we've got a great bathroom, that we've got the foundations right. In with foundational, you know, you don't want to be the bottom end of the market. You don't need to be the top end of the market in that particular marketplace, but you need to be in that top 30%. You want your property to be clean and tidy and attractive to your relevant tenant type. Okay. Now you need to understand your tenant type, you know, because once you understand your tenant type, as I've just said, that 3-bedroom in Sheffield versus that City of London for a banker, you need to understand your tenant type. And then thirdly, you need to understand your timeline. I get really, really frustrated when I watch TV programs like Home Under the Hammer, and you see people refurbishing the house they bought, and it says a caption at the bottom, 6 months later, and you go back to the property and you see the refurbishment they've done. And invariably they've refurbished to too high a standard for their target tenant type, or they're not even clear on their tenant type at that point. So they can't have refurbished to the right standard for them because they don't know what it is. And their timeliness is awful. A family-let property should take no longer than 5 to 6 weeks to refurbish. That's even if the property's got damp, needs new windows, needs new central heating. You shouldn't be going longer than 5 or 6 weeks. If it's taking you longer than that, it's down to bad planning, or often it's down to someone saying, do you know what, to save money because I'm just starting on my journey or I don't have much money, I'll do the work myself. For me, this is a false economy. When you look to do that work yourself and you're putting yourself out there, then, you know, if that delays you by 4 months, takes 6 months instead of 2 months, and the rent's $700 a month, you just lost $2,800 of rent you could have had. So people will, you know, save £1,500 on the builder's cost and do it themselves, but lose $2,800 in rent. Plus, they've just had no evenings for 6 months, no time with their spouse because they've been working on the property. So it's a false economy. So you must get the foundational stuff right. You must understand your tenant type, and you must understand your timeline, and be getting that refurbishment done. You know, same if it's HMO, same if it's family let. A lot more to do, but get it done. You should never be taking longer than 2 months. Family let, not longer than 5 weeks. Okay. So that's our 6th S. Remember, I'm covering each of these briefly for now, and we'll break it out more later on in this module and in future modules to come as well. So what's our 7th S? We've sourced the property at discount. We've negotiated really well. We've had it surveyed to make sure that it is what we believe it is. We've got the right mortgage broker and right mortgage in place, the right solicitor and legal team in place. We're getting the property bought. We're now refurbishing the property to the right standard, and we're setting it up correctly. The final S is celebrate. In the UK, we're so bad at stopping and rewarding ourselves for an awesome job. If you're going to buy 10 properties during your lifetime, and this is the first one, or the third one, or the 5th one, that's a big chunk of your success plan. So when you do get that property bought and it's refurbished and you get it tenanted and rented out, it's really, really important to stop and celebrate. Now, you know, I'm just like many of you out there, successful people. You get on, and you get, as soon as you get to the top of the mountain, you don't stop to enjoy the view. You just get busy climbing the next mountain. Okay. Why is this so important? Why am I making such a big thing of it? Because I'm not making a big thing because I think it's important you have a good time, although it is. I'm making such a big thing because when we celebrate, we lock in the feeling. We lock in the great feeling of having got it done. And when we as human beings lock in a great feeling, we want to have that feeling again. And so many investors, so many end up buying 1, 2, 3, 4 investment properties, but they don't get to financial freedom. And it's because they don't get the drive to do it again and again and again. So they get what they do is they lock in the bad feelings. They get a problem with the property. They get a tenant who doesn't pay, and they become stressed about it, locks it in, or they get a tenant that trashes the property, they become stressed, locks it in, and they let that emotion get locked into them. But they're not, on the balance of their emotions, locking in the great times. They're not celebrating. So it's really important to stop and celebrate that achievement. You know, get your family together, get your friends together, and really, really celebrate that you've bought that property. And that can be a party for my first investment property, my third investment property, my fourth investment property. But if you tell everybody, do you know what, I'm going to get 10, come to my party, this is my first one, I want to enjoy it with all of you, and you get all your friends and family there, and when they're there you're saying, do you know what, I'm getting 10, this is the first of the 10, we're celebrating, I'm going to invite you again when I get my second. What are the chances that you're going to do a second now? You've publicly declared it to everybody. You've all had an awesome time together, so they're going to be saying, when are we having that next party? When are you getting your next property? They're going to motivate and push you towards it. You know, you've got to stop and celebrate. So that is the powerful purchase plan. The powerful purchase plan. We're sourcing our properties with great discounts. We're negotiating really well. We're surveying them. We're making sure we leverage them with mortgage finance. We're getting the right solicitors in place. We're refurbishing correctly. And we're locking those awesome feelings in. I hope you've enjoyed this first module in this first video in module 4. And as I say, I'm going to break this out into more detail as we go through the modules. But go ahead right now. Make sure you've written up some great notes from what we've just been through. You'll have identified some gaps in your knowledge that you need to work on. Make sure you're really clear on what those gaps are. You might want to stop the video and just make a list of where the gaps are. And you'll also have identified some things that you already believe you're good at. But then once you've made those notes and got those notes written up, why don't you go ahead right now and watch the second video in this module where I'm going to show you exactly how to buy properties with a 15% plus discount every single time. Invest with knowledge. Invest with confidence, create financial freedom. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.